He's a real dog. He's a bad dog. Greater than Elvis. He's a bad dog. All right, we are live. April 16th, 2025. Did I just see a golden Elvis? Oh, it's Trump. This is One-Eyed Jack and the Murder Hornets, Dawn of the New Day. Everything in this video is true. I'm going to pause it right there. So if you're looking at the video, it has a cover from the New York Post that says Braveheart, and then it has Braveheart with Trump's face. But we're talking about the symbolism inherent in that event, how it was a PR stunt disguised as an assassination attempt. And it was a magic show, bit of a trick. It was a psyop, but it wasn't an actual attempt on his life. And some people still have that confused. If you're confused about it, raise your hand. I was making this point last night that I am not confused, and I don't advocate confusion. And I think admitting confusion is a admission of defeat. It's like the mind war got me, can't figure it out, I'm baffled. And we don't really suffer from that here, even if we don't have all the answers. At least we know what isn't true, which is equally important. By the way, we have a 24-hour stream on right now. So if you didn't know, I think we're good now. So I want to just double check here. If you're in the chat, just say, so it looks like everything's been good so far. Are we good? And as you see on the screen, you have the cover of The Atlantic juxtaposed with Tony Soprano at the end of season 1, episode 12, after he survived an assassination attempt which injured his ear, the top of his ear, you know, your earlobe where Trump got shot. And the Atlantic cover came right after, and it looks like a bloody head wound. You couldn't be any more blatant. And the lines with the sharp right angles there, I think that's meant to insinuate a swastika, but they couldn't be that obvious. But the bloody head, yeah. And that's not the first time the Atlantic has been implicated in such a thing. This is how they roll. And they've been doing this since Alex Soros took over, I suppose, but it's not the first time. And it's all part of this story as it's unfolding, which is not organic. It's been written in advance. He has a predetermined end and resurrection scenario, which last year was just a setup. At first, I thought, is this it? We've been monitoring the situation, seeing the buildup for some calamity. We were even looking at the shot glass at Trump Tower that he sells. It has a bullet in it. And this was before the shooting. And then that happened, and I thought, is that it? A half-assed squib? Where's the 9/11? Where's the domestic terrorists rising up? Where's the accelerationism? Didn't happen. Nobody paid attention. They're like, oh, cool, move on. But this next one, the real one, is the one that's supposed to be highly significant. And the date, according to one individual that we often receive calls from, Jurassic Liars, is August 4th, which correlates with Barack Obama's birthday. And I used to wonder about this. I'm like, okay, well, Obama is being inferred as far as his analysis of the symbolism around it. And I was like, what does Obama have to do with it? But as time has moved on, it has become very clear. He was behind Leave the World Behind, not coincidentally, released on November the 22nd. It takes place in a zip code 11968. So right off the bat, you have a reference to JFK. But it goes much deeper, especially when you see how this Trump versus Obama dynamic has existed since the birther situation. But what it relates to is the figureheads of the two poles and how they are representative of two different views, the progressive utopianism and the traditionalism, MAGA, Make America Great Again, go back, pre-feminism, pre-civil rights, this idea of it used to be good, and these guys were going to make it great by changing everything that was good, according to the other side. So this dialectic, I assign it to the numbers or the years 1776 and 1619. And I've said this for some time, but Leave the World Behind makes it even clearer since Obama obviously invoked 1619 throughout that movie and inferred that that is the calamity or the reckoning, America's downfall. All ties back to these two competing visions, one represented by 1619 as a starting point and the other 1776. And their figureheads are Obama and Trump. And this plays out in every movie where a Trump-esque character survives an assassination attempt. And every one of these movies, what I'm saying is, you have an Obama counterpart who is actually the one orchestrating the assassination. And that's why it's so intriguing that Trump took Obama's portrait out of the White House, moved it to the other side, and put the painting of himself with the head wound in its stead. So if you look at the bigger story, then you see that these minor events are not insignificant. This is a world script, a world stage script. We're reading, we're inferring from these actions, the different plot points as they're being demonstrated or played out in front of us. So there are no real coincidences on the world stage. Joe Santos says, did anyone point out the rocket was the same as the Austin Powers? Yeah, we've been pointing that out for some time, but yes. And this was highlighted in right-wing media a couple of years ago. And we already talked about the significance between Bezos, Dr. Evil, Nimrod, the builder of the Tower of Babel, and how that all correlates to the rocket and the symbolism of the Tower of Babel, man going into the heavens. And in particular, we were talking about him because he went to space on July 20th, 2021, on an anniversary of Apollo 11. And he launched at 9/11, which I don't think is insignificant. It's all part of this meta story of this particular character, Bezos, who represents, in my view, Nimrod. And this all ties into the Tower of Babel and America as Babylon. It's a fascinating story when you break it apart. But the Dr. Evil part, even though it's a comedy with the Austin Powers movie, the symbolism there is legitimately portraying something here. And the rocket shape, yeah, it's because it represents the shaft of Baal, the obelisk. This is Baal worship. This is the fertility cult. And so obviously that is what it means. And that's the main purpose. One of the points I've been making recently is that the purpose of the space program isn't to take us to space. It's the religion of Nasatology. And this is just their religious pageantry of showing you ascension, levitating high priests. I mean, it's all just a religious theater. No one's taking you to Mars, but they're selling you on this idea of a paradise, this ideal society, the sustainable society, and it is our task to bring that here to Earth. We will live on Earth as they do on Mars, and this is not a new idea. If you look back to the early Russian rocket scientists, this is like pre-Apollo 11 stuff, where they were talking about communism on Mars. There's a book called Red Star about Earth scientists going to Mars and saying, wow, this works perfectly. Let's bring it back to Earth. And that kind of also mirrors the story. It happens again with Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, where it's like the Martian tells us how to live. So to me, the Mars thing is us becoming Martians. It has to do with the new age, which has been assigned by the occultists to Mars, the age of Horus or the age of Mars, which is what we're experiencing now as the Great Reset. Ryler says James Gandolfini was born on 261, the 261th day of the year, and died 621 months old. They ended on season 6, episode 21. Now, that's all intriguing. For those who don't know, the significance of these digits all relate to this head wound theme. So, one thing I can say about this Tony Soprano head wound is one, he's drinking orange juice. His orange juice gets shot. So, that's an obvious callback to Francis Ford Coppola's work, where the Godfather survives an assassination attempt and there's oranges that roll onto the street. So, there's that. Trump, Orange Man, there's possibly some symbolism here, but at that time, he was being compared to a mob boss. And that was one of the themes. He's a bad Don. And I'm like, oh, that's Abaddon, Abaddon from Revelation 9:11. But as this story is developing, they've characterized him as a Tony Soprano, or how Tony Soprano paved the way for Donald Trump. But the ear thing is pretty specific. And it's the end of season 1. But then Francis Ford Coppola's latest movie, Megalopolis, has Make Rome Great Again, an obvious allusion to MAGA. Magalon in the movie is Magalon. So it's about Trump. The main character, Caesar, is Trump. And the mayor orchestrates an assassination attempt. The mayor, the actor, again, Obama character. But interestingly, in that one, he gets shot in the eye, and then he manages to miraculously heal himself, and then he resurrects. But my whole point here is that Francis Ford Coppola is one of these individuals whose movies figure prominently in the foreshadowing, the entertainment aspect of the you got entertainment propaganda and information propaganda, news and entertainment, but they're really the same thing. All right, let's see here. We've got quite a good crowd so far. So we are live on all the audio streams. We're on, I think, D Live as well. And D Live will always be on. I have some 24/7s. So we're back on for real this time. And I'm not going to turn that one off. It's a dedicated live stream channel. And after this, I'm going to turn on a YouTube channel there as well. So it's going to play the last 3 days, and then I'll go through archives and pick things up. But it's going to be the most recent stuff. So if you miss anything, just tune in, and it will carry the live streams as well. All right, so let's get into this. I had no idea how much this Kate Perry thing would blow back in everybody's faces. As far as the space agencies, like, it's not being taken seriously. It's being clowned. But before we go on, there was something else that Synchromorpheus found. Oh, yes. This is good. So we were talking about predictive programming proxies for world stage characters like Trump. And this movie, Mickey 17, which I'm going to go watch. Mickey 17 has Mark Ruffalo playing a Trump-esque character. We've talked about this before. Assassination attempt, bullet grazes his cheek. He's talking about colonizing a white planet. All kinds of Trump-esque aspects to him. He turns his politics into a cult. He even does a dorky little dance. So it's Trump, even though the director denies it. But this is how they roll. And they're saying it's just a coincidence that what happens in the movie happened to Trump a few months before, long after these shots have already been filmed. So we're talking about another example of weird coincidences. But it's interesting, too, that Mark Ruffalo was born on 11/22, JFK's death day. And there's more. Mark Ruffalo opened up on his decision to temporarily hide his brain tumor diagnosis. So you have the head injury inference here. The Marvel actor, who was 33 at the time, had a tumor the size of a golf ball that left him completely deaf in one ear. So you have that. And he says, when I woke up, the side of my face was paralyzed, and I couldn't even close my eye. And there's a follow-up story about his brother who died by a gunshot wound to the head. Sad story, if true, but we're talking about the fascinating connections between the role he's playing, what happened to Trump in real life, and how the details of his life seem to correlate with various aspects of this bigger story, especially the thing with the head wound and the ear thing, and of course, the JFK reference. Okay, so that we got that out of the way. We always dig deeper. Like, look, I saw the trailer for Mickey 17, and I knew it was going to have something like this. Like, we are pretty good at predicting where the predictive programming is going to lie. It's not hard to find. It's not hard to guess. If it's mainstream, if it's being force memed onto the public consciousness, then yeah, it's probably significant. I would say this is generally true because if it's number one on Amazon, I check it out, it happens. And it's not cognitive bias. We're talking about prophecy, and it shouldn't be possible. Like, I should be given credit as being a prophet. I'm like, hey, if you're in Los Angeles, you're going to get nuked as per Homestead. And I haven't even watched it, but just by the commercials, you're going to get nuked or something like that. And what happened? Pete Tripper says, I never watched Sopranos and I'm Italian. It has 86 episodes. Interesting. Jurassic Liars has done a deep dive into it. And one of the things we've noticed, see, I don't like specifically only focusing on numbers and names and dates, even though it's there, because I think the more interesting and compelling aspect are the storylines, the themes, the way that they mentally prepare you for something in the future. This is very apparent if you look at the responses to 9/11 being compared to movies like Independence Day. Roland Emmerich, not insignificant that he did Moonfall, which preceded the space junk that we've been experiencing. Moonfall gave us all the imagery. See, they have to put something in your head so that you can conceptualize the unbelievable crap that they're going to put in the news. It makes it more believable. As I was saying before, the information, propaganda, the news is like poison. The entertainment is what they put to sweeten the poison. So we have a lot of examples of people calling this thing out as fake. A lot of it is because they opened the hatch from the inside, then they closed it, and then Bezos opened it up with his magic tool. And a lot of people are just calling this out. So let me play an example so you know what I mean, because these aren't flat earthers. If you thought you were going to send a couple NASA plants to Antarctica to attack the biblical flat earth model, and you're going to make us all into believers in the space fakery, you kind of misfired there. So let me play this clip from Amuse. They're calling it out, as many are. Now, I'm sorry for the TikTok music, and I hope the audio is not too loud. One more thing I want to add here with regard to this launch is they all said that Kate Perry sang What a Wonderful World while looking at the Earth. And by the way, they weren't even high enough to see the Earth. They were only like 50 miles up. They didn't even reach did they even reach the Kármán line? Okay, so let me go ahead and the thing gave me a warning, so it's pretty nice of there we go. StreamYard, it says you've lost audio, so I was just checking. Now, I'm glad you missed it, to be honest. It was pretty bad. But we have not heard or seen the video of Kate Perry singing that song. And I'm saying that we're not going to. And the reason we're not going to is because they don't have one continuous shot for the several minutes they were in space. And we're only going to get jump cuts. So most of you heard this yesterday. They opened the door. They opened the door prematurely. Okay, I'm just making sure the audio is carrying. Let me try that one more time. I'm learning this new system. I like it though. It's just I have to make sure that it shares the audio on the tab so you can hear this annoying character with his TikTok background music.
Over to the door and say something, probably like, "Don't do that. You can't do that. It's showing. Don't open it. Don't open it." But it was already too late, y'all. It was on live feed. But you know, they still had to try to play it off somehow. So the people from the live crew that was talking was like, Jeff Bezos is about to open the door from the outside. He about to open the hatch. And then Jeff Bezos went over there with some little key or whatever. And then he act like he was opening the door when we all just seen that the door opened from the inside. That's not supposed to happen. You cannot open that capsule from the inside.
Now it gets even worse. It gets even worse because I've heard people explain this away. They said maybe they decided last minute to reopen it. I mean, there's cope out there. People are trying to cope with this. The believers are getting laughed at. Fake. Was Bezos's carnival ride faked? And by the way, Gayle King gets really mad if you call it a ride, a mere ride. It diminishes it. But that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is this. There was, and this is from one of the PR shots, so I don't think this is an accident. This is not like truth or bait, I don't believe. I'm not 100%, but I've seen this picture being floated around quite a bit. I'm not sure why this would not be the picture, because you have the individuals walking up to it. Yeah, this is it. So someone explain to me this. Why do we have an obvious dummy? That's a dummy, which has me thinking that they just did the whole thing in a hangar with surround LED and the entire capsule going up. Yeah, that happened, but it wasn't manned. It was mannequined or womannequined. It's all just a bunch of woman dummies. And then when they're on the ground, they have the women come in and then they start the cameras rolling. So they had already opened the hatch. So I think you can kind of tell that this is some kind of switcheroo. They wouldn't have done a manned launch. They would not have sent Gayle King, Lauren Sanchez, and Kate Perry on that thing because of the risks involved. Notice they weren't wearing any helmets. They were unhelmeted. They were floating around random. Anything could have gone wrong. I mean, is there any guarantee that the thing wouldn't have tumbled? I don't think so. So you can see it, Joe Santo. Yeah, it's a fake person. It's a dummy. This is a training dummy. And you know what? They have these before. If you look into previous launches, they had been sending dummies up for some time. So I'm like, either this is a joke and somebody slipped this in there to make us look crazy, or it wasn't really manned. It was unoccupied. And I'm not saying they don't really launch these things, but a lot of people are even noticing that even the rocket launch itself looks pretty sus. Like it looks like CGI. And I'm talking normies, not flat earth extremists, which I am not, by the way, and I don't think any of you are either. Abe Gunther says it is fake. No man would put his wife's life at risk like Bezos did. And where are the selfies from space or cell phone videos that should be blowing up the internet? See, that's a point that I've raised many times with regard to the ISS. The only thing you would need to convince me it's real, and they've had years to do it, is to take an iPhone. Some cell phone company should be begging, hey, use my phone in space. Give us some footage that we can put on everybody's phone. So instead of getting a CGI Earth on your phone, everybody gets like, a view of the Earth from above where the camera can float around the room. You can see there's no cables making it look like they're levitating. So I've been pointing this out for some time. Where's the cell phone footage? And you never get to see it. And now we're not going to get to hear Kate Perry sing in space because, again, she didn't sing it in space. They're all lying. Let's see here. Based off the video of their landing, they should be wearing neck braces. Yeah, exactly. This is by Pro Observer. They should be wearing neck braces. And where's the dust? 1800. Now, they explain the lack of entry burns on the lack of altitude. They didn't go high enough for that. So I can give them that. Edwin Mendoza says, I'm just going to call BS on the stage. Space travel. Oh, no, that was Larry. 161,000 followers. Former representative state delegate. Army veteran. Grandpa healthcare CEO. So these are not flat earth extremists. These are just normies, and they're just calling it out. WR Shock says, guess what was inside the capsule when it touched down before they cut the cameras for 10 minutes to remove the mannequins and usher in the Astro Hose? What's that? And I'm with them on this 100%. That is WR Shock QBD. He's a quantum biodynamics specialist, and he would know a dummy if he saw one. Look at that. Okay, here's the clip of Jeff Bezos tripping and falling on his face, probably tired from moving all the dummies and dragging them out across the desert to make way for the actresses, the actor-nauts. Look at this tripping and falling, and I don't think it's funny when people trip and fall. I fell recently on the stairs, but in this case, I don't know. I mean, Kate Perry kissed the ground a minute before or a minute after this. Maybe there's something symbolic to it. The man who fell to earth. So let's see here. Going through your comments. Ryler says 1969 was a 9/11 eclipse year, the year we went to the moon. Right. Well, the whole thing with the moon and the Apollo mission was all purely symbolic. There's a reason why Neil Armstrong did the bread and wine, the Catholic Eucharist on the moon. All right, let's see here. They do not. Matt X says they do want people to think it's fake, but why? I don't think they do. I mean, we can't stick in an echo chamber with people in the know like us. But the normies who don't watch it, they assume it's all real. And many of them have seen rockets. One of the things that Musk has done is he's made a spectacle about going to space. So everybody's talking about the problem of Musk polluting the atmosphere, rocket chemtrails, space junk. And since they have visual special effects when they launch the rockets at night, nobody's questioning the existence of this stuff. So I don't think they want people to think it's fake. I think their special effects have always been terrible. And it's clear that the private space agencies do not have the same hairdresser as NASA. Because compare Suni Williams to any of these ladies who didn't even seem to have zero-G effects at all applied. It just looked like maybe a hair dryer. And this is the same thing with the SpaceX launch over Antarctica. The woman's hair was sitting flat. And at one point, obviously, she was upside down, and they had a fan blowing on her. That's not how NASA does it. Not enough staff to make sure the effects are on point, says Ollie Goering. Yeah, that's exactly it. When you're talking about PSYOPs, you're not talking about Hollywood. You got some overlap, but their talent pool has to be people who have a certain security clearance. It's not like anybody. I mean, this is one of the common points I raise here, is that the programmers, the programming class is mostly not in the know. It's very compartmentalized by necessity. Swiss Chalet says, I think they don't care what anyone thinks. They just want you interacting 24/7 with the internet. I disagree. I think they want people interacting 24/7 with the internet, yes. But I think they care what we think. They want us to think within accepted parameters. So they want us to call it fake, but they want us to think there's a secret space program. They want us to think it's fake, but they really go to space. But this one is fake because we don't like Bezos or something. But they want us to believe that Musk goes to space, for example. So they have a acceptable version of things for alternative media and conspiracy theorists that they're 100% behind. And that side never goes too far. And that's been my main critique of it. It's not enough to say that they're all involved in faking a launch. Like, what's the bigger picture here? Well, Musk is faking stuff too. If Musk is, and he is, then what about the ISS? Because the ISS directly receives its resources at times from SpaceX rockets. So you have this problem here. If this is fake, it can't possibly be providing services to this if this is real. So it's a house of cards. And the acceptable beliefs don't tear down the house of cards. Most people don't have it right. And like, there are many who will point out, like, for example, there are many on the left who think that Donald Trump faked his assassination attempt, but they do think somebody there did die, and they do think the shooter died. So they're sort of like 1 foot in the matrix, 1 foot out, and they will never get out. That's the whole point of controlled opposition. They let you in on something to validate your suspicions, make you think you're following truth tellers because they're giving you some truth. But what you don't know is that they have stopped you from going beyond certain parameters, and there are certain areas they will not go. One point that we often bring up here is that the mainstream truth channels and all of the popular truthers on X, Candace Owens, she might be heralded as a conspiracy theorist. Laura Loomer, she's a conspiracy theorist. No, they're not. They're well within the parameters of controlled opposition, mainstream alternative. They are not a threat to the system or the status quo because they're controlled opposition. There are things they will not talk about. Laura Loomer, Candace Owens, Stu Peters, and these are all people who are perceived of as organic and separate from Alex Jones, who we all know is controlled op. They're considered to be real and they're fighting the system. It's like, no, because it's what they won't tell you. And what they can't tell you is that they simulate the news all the time, that they simulate terror attacks. They're not provoking it, they're simulating it. The phrase I use I think it's in Autohoaxology 101, I say these things are simulated, not stimulated. And alternative media always runs with these things were triggered, like January 6th. The FBI instigated it. No, not at all. The FBI or the people who were said to be FBI there, and of course the informants and all these people were all just part of the show to hide the fact that it was a show, that Ashley Babbitt didn't die. And all of it implicates Trump at the highest level of this psyop. So if you think about that, then why would Trump be a rogue, or how could he be in opposition to the system if he helped honeypot the entire far right with this Q thing? So when you look at the bigger picture, the level of fakery is outside of the bounds that these popular conspiracy theorists can get into. You think that Laura Loomer, of her character, could ever call any of this stuff fake? Well, no. You know, she worships Donald Trump. He's a hero. She can't say the truth. Oh, he's a magician and a TV star who did some special effects. No, they can't go that far. And that's really the big tell. If they can't go that far and call fake because they're part of the show, it's pretty easy to see. And they simply will not interact with the off-world stage perspective. You see, there isn't really any censorship. They just don't acknowledge certain viewpoints. There are certain things that are just unanimously ignored, but the censorship is just a form of promotion. I mean, the most censored person in this arena, the most censored people are the ones who are most talked about, the hardest to ignore. All right, so let's see here. Let's move on. A lot of people are making fun of this thing. I'm just reading through some tweets here. The two astronauts who were stuck in space for 9 months watching Kate Perry kiss the ground after being in space for 10 minutes. In fact, there was a pretty good clip I have to play. This is it. This is someone, I think she's called something, conservative something. She does a impersonation of this whole farce, and it's rather good. Conservative mama. So 1 second here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. But the irreverence towards this thing exists solely on the alt media right. The lefties, the liberals, they worship this stuff. Their religion is nasatology. Like, that is their religion. Okay, so here you have it. This would be conservative mama, and she does this interesting little take on the event. So this isn't the real thing.
It just give me a moment.
Aging experience.
I'm a completely different person now. I gotta kiss the earth. I do. It just give me a moment. Thanks. I can tell you, in complete sincerity, since I got back, that my skin has never looked better. There were moments, and I'm not gonna lie, where I didn't know if we were gonna make it back. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. If we had not done the extensive training that we did, I don't think we would have made it back.
Communication is going to be key. I understand that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, I'm going to need some direction. So I take the strap and I just pull it across my chest like this. And then I click. Do I click? Do I wait for a click? Do I keep pushing until there's a click? I need this training. I'm sorry. I need you to repeat that.
All right, so I have that linked to myminds.com. So again, it's being widely ridiculed. And here's Gayle King lashing out against people, calling her 10-minute trip to space a quote ride. And then she compares herself to Ellen Shepard, who walked on the moon. And I believe the rocket is called the New Shepard. I think it's named after Ellen Shepard. But what she says here is that it's misogynistic. It's misogynistic to say that they went on a ride, because with men, it's a mission, it's a flight, and she's disappointed and saddened by people who are minimizing the great achievement, which again, that conservative mama was making fun of, because obviously they just took a short little trip. They didn't even reach the Kármán line. Was it a great feat? You know, I am underwhelmed by it. All right, let me go ahead and play Gayle King reacting to people who call it a mere ride. Okay, here we go. This is on Entertainment Tonight. And again, it's misogynistic to make fun of the
This
thing.
is what bothers me, because I've certainly read some of the things online coming from people that I know, that I like, that I consider friends. And this is what I would say to that. Space is not an either or, it's a both and. And because you do something in space doesn't mean you're taking anything away from Earth. And what you're doing in space is trying to make things better here on Earth. What Blue Origin wants to do is take the waste here and figure out a way to put it in space to make our planet cleaner. I mean, Jeff Bezos has so many ideas, and the people that are working there are really devoted.
Now, one thing here, Jeff Bezos is looking for a way to put all of our trash in space. I think that's preposterous. The amount of resources, the environmental destruction, just getting it out of here makes that absurd. But anyway, it's like as bad as like polluting the oceans, I would imagine. I don't know how that's going to get a pass. All this talk about space junk, and now he's talking about putting space. It's not like it just goes away forever. You can't really just drop it to the nearest star. It has to be propelled. So let's continue.
And dedicated to making our planet a better place. That's number one. Number two, have you been? Have you been? If you've been and you still feel that way after you come back, please let's have a conversation. Number three, please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, you have never said to an astronaut, boy, what a ride. You know, we duplicated the same trajectory that Alan Shepard did back in the day, pretty much. No one called that a ride. It was called a flight. It was called a journey, because a ride implies that it's something frivolous or something that's lighthearted. There was nothing frivolous about what we did, and the machine that we were on, and what it took for the people to get that machine up and running, to get us up and get us back down safely. So, you know, I'm very disappointed and very saddened by it. And I also say this,
It doesn't seem like she caught the overview effect. You know, the overview effect, when you go so high, you see the Earth, that you transcend all these, like, you know, kind of lower vibration emotions, anger, rage. You no longer see separate nations. You just see humanity as one. I don't think she got that. She didn't get the memo. You're supposed to have some kind of transcendent experience when you see the Earth from so far away. And I just don't think she got it.
what it's doing to inspire other women and young girls, please don't ignore that.
You're not supposed to come back from space acting all, you know, entitled. Like, it's enough that she gets credited with being an astronaut. All right, let's see. Let's continue. That's Gayle King. A lot of the comments were pretty good. Let me go through. Someone had actually collected a number of great comments, and you know, I just think it's remarkable how casually and flippantly people are disregarding the thing is real, meaning they're trusting their intuition and they're not really overthinking it. Now, oftentimes we point out that everything we see on TV has some kind of preparation for the audiences. It's a form of conditioning. And here we have something. This is, I haven't seen this before. So this is completely new to me, but season 3 of the morning show, episode 1 is called The Carmen Line, which is what was said on the rocket. It said Carmen Line. Season 3, episode 2, Ghost in the Machine, has this following scene with Reese Witherspoon. And she looks very much like Kate Perry in many ways. And she's just walking up to the rocket and blasting up into space. And some have compared this to that. So it does look like the same thing. I haven't seen the show, but it has many of the same elements. It looks like a Blue Origin launch is what they're saying. But it looks a little more like, okay, you know what's interesting about this is that when you see something on Netflix, like what we're looking at here, it looks better than what they can show us from any of these space agencies. Like, this is one of the few areas where a fake looks realer than real. Like, they can't fake it well enough. I'm not sure if the public is even experiencing cognitive dissonance, what they should be. And I saw this when they sent Artemis up a couple years ago. They had an animation of it first, and they put a warning label or label. It's like, disclaimer, this is the animation. We haven't actually launched yet. So they have to tell you it's an animation. Yeah. So Gail King's message was, if you haven't been to space, you can't talk. You weren't there. You weren't there, so you don't get an opinion. All right, let's see what else we have here. This is the top of the rocket. It says Carmen Line. So that's kind of an interesting tie-in. We deserve better psyops. I agree. Someone here calls it, I love a good revelation of the method. Nice work there. That's not what it technically is, but, I get their point. All right, let's move on. This space fakery talk is ongoing. There are like 7 or 8 different, from what I could see, live spaces talking about this very thing. Gail King is 70 years old and has the body and strength to sustain going to space with the G-forces. Good point. Someone else, let's see. A lot of laughter emojis, but they're in Vegas in that damn globe, says Magic the Barber. Fooled us once, but you can't do it again. You got to be a whole clown to believe this was really space. And then again, just a waterfall of laughing emojis. I can't find anybody taking this thing seriously. And I tweeted at Kate Perry. I said, show us the video of you singing in space. You can't, because it's all jump cuts and you're not really in space. There's no response to that. There's no possible response. You know how easy it would be to shut me up? It'd be so simple to shut me up. If they could provide me with Kate Perry singing It's a Wonderful World in Space in one continuous shot, I would hang up this headset and I'd say, hey guys, space is real. Kate Perry went to space. I guess we were wrong about everything. And I would go take a long walk and think about things. They could easily shut down all the critics, but they can't. Oh, Pete Trippa, you left a voicemail about the Challenger explosion. Okay, I will bring that up. Let me open my phones. Oh, by the way, let me show you a photograph someone sent me of Joseph Smith, the prophet. Interesting looking character. And here's what was sent to me by Penguinati Auto Hoaxer. Joseph Smith shared the same wife as William Morgan, the martyred Mason. So Lucinda Pendleton was married to both Joseph Smith and William Morgan. Joseph Smith and William Morgan were both Masonic martyrs. So that's kind of interesting. He says here, what are the odds of these two major historical figures sharing a wife? There has to be more to the story. It makes me think the Morgan episode appears to be a theatrical event, and I wonder if he faked his death. So this is interesting. This is about Lucinda Pendleton marrying both Morgan and Smith proves that Morgan was not some anonymous whistleblower, but an Illuminati operative. And he does remark that Joseph Smith has an Elvis-y look. So that is all intriguing. That is strange that two separate martyrs would have the same wife. The story with William Morgan is that he was killed by Masons, and that's because he revealed some stuff, and the murderers were protected because they were all part of the system that protected them. Ryler says Joseph Smith's lore is that he was tarred and feathered, which is why he looked funny. Well, I was told that he was tarred and feathered when he was killed. So, because I don't think you survive a tar and feathering. It's actually, I think it's a death. I don't know if you survive it because what it does to your skin. Ryler says definitely related to Elvis. Yeah, that's kind of a reach, possibly, but I don't know. I mean, 27 or some wives, I guess, who he's probably got a lot of relatives. But interesting information here, nonetheless. All right, let us continue. We talked quite a bit yesterday about differences of interpretations, and I think we made enough headway there. Don't have to kick a dead simulation theory. We know who fakes the news and why, and we can study it with the right lens now, which is, I think, far more productive. So we have two different things now to look at with the space, with the Blue Origin launch, suggestive of it being a hoax. One, we have the dummy thing, and two, we have the door opening at the wrong time. Shouldn't happen. So I'm going to go ahead and open up phones, and I have a voicemail to play, something about the Challenger explosion. They are always here, says, where were the emergency services? Oh, they are already here. Yeah, exactly. Emergency services should have been nearby. Valid point. Okay, I have a voicemail here. By the way, you can leave voicemails at the number, which I will have to put on the screen. All right, here we go. Here's the message. And again, just bear with me while I turn this on. We have the new system. So it's a little clunky at the moment, but I'm getting better at it. It's just a different operating system. And I don't want to inadvertently share the wrong information. Okay, so here we go. We have a couple of voicemails here, and let me know if you can hear this. Okay, here is... by the way, Skype is done. They turned Skype off. Okay, this is Pete Trippa talking about the Challenger explosion. Okay, 3, 2... I gotta say, Google Voice has got one of the most awkward interfaces. Here we go. He's talking about he says, Tim, you're talking about the female astronauts. I need to talk about Krista McAuliffe, the American teacher and astronaut that died. As you know, we're told during the Challenger explosion, and it's a little Boston connection. She's from Concord, New Hampshire. She went to school over here in the Boston area. I don't know too much about her. that went up, whatever, with the women and stuff. But I think there's a good connection here. The only female astronaut that was like literally chosen at random. She was a school teacher chosen out of 11,000 applicants. And the express intention was to put, okay, I see what you're saying, I think. But let me go ahead and make sure that people can hear it. I don't know if they can. No sound. Okay. To play sound, apparently I have to put your number on the screen. And I don't want you to get called by the NSA. So I'm not sure what to do about that. But for the time being, we're just going to have to go with me reading your voicemails. Yeah. Again, this is a new system. I might go back to something else if this doesn't work out. I'm trying this out for a week. So caller, just be you're no longer anonymous. Okay, I'm sorry, but phone is ringing. I'm not able to answer it. And it's because I don't see where it is exactly. Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm not gonna take calls at the moment. I hear the ringer going off in my head, and yeah, it's a little cluttered. I have to redo the whole setup here. But yeah, I'll look into it. I'll look into the significance of the person you mentioned. One of the twinsies. The thing about the Challenger thing is it's old news. I mean, it's not old, but it's not irrelevant necessarily. But people have run over all the clues there, and the facts don't seem to have any effects on people. Right now, I think the more important thing is the big picture fakery, the fact of space fakery, and not to get lost on specific events, especially events that are automatically discredited in the eyes of the other side of this conversation. So, for example, that one, I was in a debate with a couple of people about this. I brought it up. One of them started crying. We had to terminate the conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It is, but no one's going to find the Challenger survivors and convince anybody at this point. It doesn't matter how closely matched their faces appear to be. But yeah, I apologize. I wasn't able to take a call. Perhaps another time. I'm just going to have to do some homework here on how to take audio from a shared tab without sharing the content that's on that screen. But you can leave comments. Go to infiniteplane.live, and I will read your comments until another thing you can do, since I'm on StreamYard, is you can join StreamYard and you can jump right on. It might even have better sound. In fact, I might just do that instead of using Google Voice anymore. Because Google Voice is annoying, clunky, and has a very loud voicemail. I mean, a ringer. And we don't get a lot of voicemails anyway. So if you want to jump on, I think I can provide you with a URL. And it's no different. What's the difference between clicking a link and having a FaceTime with us, basically, with your camera off, or calling? It makes no difference. But if you're on a rotary phone, we can't help you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward here. I'm sorry for the cluttered desktop here, kind of had me confused. I think I had multiple instances of the phone system out there and unworkable. So this has been a catch up. We've been catching up lately on a few things. The 24/7 stream is back on. You can go see that. And some of the things I've been working with are being fine-tuned as we speak. But one thing that's happening here is after I do a live stream, I have this AI agent that will take the video and the transcript, write a synopsis, a summary, provide quotes, and it will post it on one of my blogs, which then auto posts to several social media accounts. And all of this happens while I'm asleep. So I've automated a great deal of content I'm also automating press releases for autohoax.com, where it will construct a press release with quotes and statements from targeted either blogs or individuals. So, for example, I could have 5 or 6 Twitter accounts that I find to be worth following, and it could do a breakdown of their links, what they're referencing, and even their own comments. They are already here, says the name Hunter Metcalf has the words create, race, and threat within it. Right. And that would be the one of the twins who was stabbed, right? His name was Hunter? That's interesting. So what was the twin's name? And so if people don't know the story, this one's been developing. We have the story of the track meet where someone who was in the wrong place was approached by twins and he stabbed one of them in the heart. In fact, let me share that screen so you can see, because everybody I know, like I'm talking normies who don't watch the news, who don't even generally care about any of this stuff, are seeing the face of the alleged killer. And why this is significant is that he's apparently he's getting money from GoFundMe, and he bought his parents a mansion with the money that they raised from this stabbing. Very questionable as far as is it self-defense. So here we go. Carmelo Anthony renting a $900,000 home in a gated community with his family. He bought a new car after release on bond in Austin Metcalf murder case. And then here, Carmelo Anthony's family purchased a Cadillac Escalade worth $150,000. Fascinating. Again, we're talking about this event, which I don't know. What is your take on it? Does anybody here think it's real? Does anybody here believe that this track meet stabbing happened as reported? Or does it look like a psyop as usual? I'm thinking here, based on how people have responded to it, that it's likely fake. A lot of comments are like, oh, this Austin Metcalf died from a drug overdose. Like they're making fun of it because of the way that the anti-BLM people made fun of George Floyd. And then Daniel Penny had the highest earning Give, Send, Go of all time. So now you have this individual making it bank off of GoFundMe for doing the same thing. This, I mean, from their perspective, this is a moral equivalence, which is sick. His jersey had a 33 on it. Who would have guessed? You know, you should have said, guess what number he had on his jersey? And everyone here would have known. And how would we know? So here he is on Saturday, walking around in a suit. A lot of people are mad about this. It looks to me like manufactured outrage. Carmelo renting a $900,000 home in a gated community, released on bond in the Austin Metcalf case. So the twin thing is also very easy to fake. I mean, just common sense. Speaking of twinsies. Oh, by the way, I tweeted this at Kate Perry, but I did make a new PSYOP trading card. And this one is what we saw. It's the astronauts taking their ride. But this is in one of those bouncy birthday castle things. So you can get these at autohoax.com, infiniteplainsociety.com, or if you subscribe to my blogs, they're not hard to find. Soon they'll be on eBay. I think I even put this one on a t-shirt on Amazon. And my objective here is to create PSYOP trading cards that make sense to those of us in the know. On the back, they'll have a factual breakdown of what the card is about, but I want them to be uncensorable. So I'm walking the line here, making sure I'm not going too far. And I don't think I'm going to sell decks, but rather packs. Like, I'm not a collector, but how many Pokemon cards come in a pack, like with a stick of bubble gum or something. Because I'm pretty sure we can find a supplier that will randomize the cards, and then we'll sell them as packs. And these are PSYOP trading cards. I think that this is a concept that we can continue indefinitely. And what I'm working on now is stickers. And every time I have 20 good designs, 20 stickers, then we'll make a couple packs. Michelle K says, not sure if it's been mentioned, but Netflix has a new show coming out called Sirens. Another Odyssey connection. Very good. Dinah Southard says, my coworkers like the new stickers on my water bottle. Yeah, and I got your comment about smaller sizes because we have them approximately the size of real cards. But yeah, I think I'm going to do minis, like sticker sheets. I was looking through the different templates available to me, and I could create sticker sheets where you could get 20 PSYOP trading cards, and you could stick them places, your water bottles, the back of your phone. You could put them on those posts, like all the drive ups here. Like if you get coffee anywhere, they have these posts where you put stickers. But anyway, Dr. Beck Ashford says, right, because there's no shortage of PSYOPs coming for the new cards. Exactly. And before there's PSYOPs even out of the news cycle, I have the cards made. I'm using ChatGPT, and the prompts are pretty simple. Just say, I want a Pokemon style trading card, but I want it called PSYOP trading card. It's pretty simple. Takes a couple of tries sometimes, but I'm very impressed. A lot of people are. ChatGPT has really nailed this. So again, this is one of the new ones. I'm working on a few others based on some suggestions. Someone had said I need to make a nothing burger, so I'm making a nothing burger tonight. They rate limit you unless you're a paid subscriber. So I'm blocked from making new PSYOP cards until like 6 in the morning. But I'm going to do a nothing burger, Q Pipe, Alex Jonestown, where everybody's drinking Kool-Aid, and a few others. They're already here. Says I looked into doing some of them on cards. They seem too pricey. Okay, I could give you some leads on this. You see, they come down to about $1 a card, $1.25 per card, and with markup, you can make the price back up. But the only caveat here is the minimum order is 25. So for each card, you'd have to order 25. So you can see a deck would be expensive. So my point here is make them individually and sell them as postcards or as stickers. And then once you have all the numbers and you've already tested the audience, like, okay, well, we have collectors who can support a bigger production, then you can move into that. But I think we just have to do it incrementally. Yeah, but this is a bounce capsule. I think it's funny, especially in light of Gayle King. I made this up as soon as I heard Gayle King get mad about it being called a ride. It's like, yeah, we got to do the bouncy balloon thing. Till says 99% of the cards could be nothing burgers. Yeah, no kidding. Wait until we start doing predictive programming. In fact, that could be a whole separate deck. And if anyone here creates anything like this, I will 100% support it. Predictive programming cards would be fantastic. Like, oh, this is a clip from The Shining, and here's how it relates to 9/11. This is from The Terminator, and here, you kind of get what I'm saying. I think it's a smart approach to commodify world stage deconstruction, to incentivize it, and to tear it up like termites. But if you incentivize it, more people will get involved. And it's not that people are motivated by money, but that this is work. And also, it's about making it into a game. It's fun. It's funny to me. And I would certainly buy other people's cards. Like I would engage in trade. And then think about if we do Auto Hoax Con, all these things would proliferate like crazy. And if we do these right, they'll be uncensorable and educational because the backside will explain the reasoning behind the image. Virtual Reality Witness says, have you seen all the action figures people have been making with AI? Yes, I've been seeing these action figure mock-ups. Some of them are hilarious. I saw one, and it literally matches somebody that I know. And I don't even want to say it because it just sounds mean, but I'm like, okay, they made an action figure for this, and it totally matches somebody. Too funny. Auto Hooks Arcana, says Ollie Goering. Dinah says, the possibilities are endless, like wacky packs and Garbage Pail Kid trading cards and stickers. Yeah, that's another thing too. I like the idea of doing this, the 10 packs or 12 packs and then have a sticker included. We'll figure it out. I don't have a 3D printer, but I have access to one in case I need a ghost gun. That's what Luigi used. And that's what the Antifa were using in the madness, which predicted Luigi in class warfare and Elon Musk rising to power. But yeah, 3D printing is easy to access here. There's this 3D printing hub website I used to go to where you have your design, you find a local printer, you pay them, they send it to you, or you pick it up. Yeah, as far as the bubble gum, I am interested in that as well. I think no deck, or rather trading pack of cards, would be complete without either a sticker or a bubble gum. All right, let's see. Let's continue. And Hoax anniversary cards. I guess we should also do that, like dates. Hoax anniversaries. We're always paying attention to dates, and we're coming up on a few. And by the way, Black Ops 2, widely noted for predicting right now, America, China, impending Cold War 2025, cyber attacks imminent. And its date is April 19th, April 20th. So we have an overlap between the fictional universe of Black Ops Call of Duty and the real world right now. So I say we're on Planet Netflix, but that's just one of many fictional universes we live within. And video games are very big when it comes to conditioning and concurrent programming. Think of it as a form of advertising. How are you going to get millions of people to interpret the next scenario in a predictable way so that we can play them? And that's how. You get them playing a game so they know how to respond. It's advertising, it's conditioning, it's quite literally programming for the masses who do, in fact, behave like a bunch of programmables. And I'm not programmable. I'm not triggerable. I haven't been in a long time. Like, even when that plane hit the helicopter, a lot of people were like, immediately, my thoughts and prayers are going out there. It's a terrible thing. DEI. They're responding as though it's real. And I'm saying, I'm waiting 3 days. I need to make sure that there's more information available before I jump to a conclusion because it fits my political bias, which, of course, I don't have. Okay, let's move on. We're just going over the latest PSYOP trading card. More to come. And this has been a concept that we've tossed around for a while, and what made it possible is AI. I mean, I'm making use of the tools available to us, and I've always been critical of the orthodox truthers' AI phobia, and I think I'm vindicated in this. AI is not the end of the world. It's just an iteration of things that it's better to get involved. So here's an example of something that I have done. Unlocking new perspectives. And you might think this is cheating or it's unethical, but you have to think about the big picture here. So while I sleep, I have this AI agent that scrapes my content. So in this case, it took this is from April the 13th. So this article here, which is pretty lengthy, is posted on my Insider page. Unlocking New Perspectives, Ips Deprogram 413. And I'm not going to read it, but these are big blocks of text. AI influence, fact or fiction? The crux of this discussion centers around the phenomenon of where AI extrapolates our preferences, desires, and raises the question to what extent are our thoughts going to remain our own. Analyzing recent events, rise of counter narratives, building a new framework. And what this is essentially is a review based upon the transcript. Now, I didn't write it. It's written by itself, but it was specifically tasked with giving an overview and using certain keywords and creating an SEO optimized article. And the only reason I am doing this is because it's going to fine tune over time. So even though it's not perfect now, it will eventually be. But I'm trying to build up a sufficient body of content so that we control this discussion. So if anybody gets any kind of headline about what we're talking about and they search for it, well, they find good information. So this is an AI agent that I'm using that has these instructions and it has a schedule, and I give it all the keys in order to grab content from one place, in this case YouTube, to do these tasks with it, and then spit out the content on this blog, and then that blog auto posts to Blue Sky and a couple of other places. But when I had the 10 days off, I was building a bunch of these basically AI agents in order to amplify what we are doing. Leo Friend says AI phobics are Luddites. Well, exactly. And I'm using it now, even though it's not 100% perfect on everything, because it's going to improve as we go. And every day I'm getting a little more fine-tuned. So it doesn't sound like me. If you know what you're looking at, you can tell it's AI written. But I'm getting rid of a lot of the AI isms. It's just a matter of coaching it. You have to tell it to take a certain tone, because the default tone is anti-conspiracy theory. The default tone is pro-mainstream. But you can tell it to be contrarian. You can tell it to emphasize skepticism and to reject headlines. You can be very specific. And Mazel says, I find you still have to edit it. That's generally true. But with these articles, when it's nonfiction, it's generally more reliable than with fiction. Fiction, you have to edit, obviously. Yeah, fiction, I think it's safe to say you pretty much have to. But with nonfiction content, if it's given the right instructions, it's pretty reliable. But the purpose of it is traffic. And so I was testing one out where it was generating reviews on products and essentially spamming it on this blog with affiliate links. And so I let it run for a day on this unused blog. It had to do with outer space. And so I had it promote Amazon products that relate to space and astronomy. And it did its job. It created all these articles, obviously written by an AI. But when I look at the stats, I'm getting clicks from affiliate links. So it's obviously doing something that I don't have time to do. And a lot of the errors are being worked out as it goes. So I could talk about the limitations in creative writing with these things, but what's the point? Because the things that are limited now are going to be improved upon in the coming, months, probably. It's evolving very fast. Yeah, I haven't had any issues with nonfiction. It's all depends on your prompting. And with the AI agents that I'm using, I'm getting things that are prefabricated. I'm using various websites where it already has the prompts that are engineered in such a way that it's not going to get too far out of your control. So no, I haven't had any issues with it. And if anything, it just keeps getting better. All right, let's continue here. Again, many big names, influencers, Azealia Banks, are calling out this space fakery. So we'll continue to follow that story. We have the new PSYOP, the stabbing. Again, now that I'm seeing how promoted this event is and how this kid is a minor who stabbed the other kid. and he's getting all this front page news. He's being put out there like sort of like Luigi was, likely to build sympathy for his side, which weirdly enough, it's there. There's quite a lot of it there. People are sympathizing with him, suggesting that he felt threatened or something, which I don't think is how self-defense is supposed to work. But I'm not a lawyer. Okay, I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed. This is from White Rabbit, Mr. Nobody. Netflix is not what it seems. So that Netflix's first CEO and co-founder was related to Edward Bernays. So it's finally dawning on them. We've talked about this before, though. And how they're both also related to Sigmund Freud, which has a lot of connotations as well. For me, Freud represents beneath the hood, subconscious manipulation, symbolism, knowing how to speak to our impulses or to manipulate those. And Edward Bernays was all about that. I mean, they knew the power of peer pressure, various covert. I mean, they use it for marketing, but I think it's useful to look at marketing, advertising, and propaganda as the same thing. They're getting you to make buying decisions every time you see a commercial. That's one of the points. And I think similarly, when you're exposed to something again and again and again in the form of entertainment, you're entrained to accept the thing as a natural outcome of what came before. So there's an element here that's consistent with the practice of advertising, which is repetition. And repetition in propaganda, is one of the main facets. And by repetition, you mean creating an inescapable echo chamber. And I would say that we have an inescapable echo chamber. If you look at the concerted messaging across all platforms, from video games to movies to books to every available possible platform out there, it's monolithic. But Big Brother is coming from so many different screens that you wouldn't necessarily correlate them. You'd think that any connections are, quote, coincidence. Speaking of connections, ChatGPT has a button now that says mind map. Do you want a mind map of what we just talked about? So Mike Kim on Twitter made this mind map based on something I was talking about: media events and real world parallels. Stranger Things, FBI, Waco, House of the Dragon, White Noise, Captain America, Call of Duty, and each of these has a corresponding real world event that ties into it. China tariff conflict. Nice infographic, automatically created just off of some tweets. Yeah, thank you, Leo Fiend. And I did see it originally when they originally showed the photo of the twins in the 33 jersey. And I'll definitely put that on the screen if I can get that up there. And these are pictures that you're meant to see. When it comes to a PSYOP, the images that you see, the ones that proliferate first, are the ones worth looking at, because these are the ones that you are clearly meant to see because they contain elements to the story. So let me see if I can find that particular one. I just searched twin stabbing, but what the name is Metcalf. But I watched when this thing first came out, and I have to say, if this is fake, the acting is on point, because I thought it was some of the most compelling acting I've seen from the victim's family. All right, here we go. So how convenient. You search for the image, and the very first thing that pops up is an N right there. 33 and 35. So there they are, twins. So it's not the same guy playing two different roles, unless this is some trick photography. But again, you face swapping on video, almost real time, Like everything is fakeable. But you can't just call things fake. You have to qualify it. But this story seems like it's generating a lot of outrage. I'm not sure what's going to happen with it in the end. What's the objective here? If it's just getting people to air their opinions to keep the politics divided, it could just be that. I haven't seen anything in the realm of concurrent or predictive programming, though, for high school stabbing. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I haven't noticed anything, if anybody has. Just in, clue on Kate Perry's spacesuit sparks Blue Origin mission conspiracy theory. It was satanic ritual. So Daily Mail covered this. And it is true that their mission patch looks like Baphomet, goat-headed, satanic idol. And Space Force also has a hat that creates the same kind of image. But the Daily Mail acknowledges this. I find that to be interesting. They pay a lot of attention to what the fringe says, don't they? All right, going through your comments. Leo Friend says, Rage Monkey programming. Yeah, the programming for the Rage virus, that could be it. The movie he's referring to is 28 Days Later, where they have these chimps exposed to violent imagery on TV screens, which becomes a rage virus that human beings catch. And this theme has been reflected through various movies and attached to, for example, The Madness. The memes, the mind viruses you catch that make you violent. So the director of Civil War wrote 28 Days Later. And Civil War is about right-wing anger becoming a civil war. Stuff they saw in the media, ideas they caught, mind viruses that should have been censored. That's the subtext. The subtext here is that we have to be censored because of radicalizing agents out there. Joe Dub says, I have a screenshot of you saying flat Earth is a psyop. It is. Well, the globe is a psyop. The closed system that it presents us with. And that's the reason for faking space. It's about creating a closed informational system. It's not even about the shape. The flat Earth model is 100% a false construct and was put there as part of a false debate, an either-or fallacy. If you can't find a flat alternative to the spinning ball that NASA presents, as, for example, Jeranism has. Jeranism is leading the way in this either-or fallacy. Like, oh, this model's been debunked, so now we have to go to this one. Well, what if that model was a straw man the whole time? In my opinion, those individuals who went to Antarctica only succeeded in burning a straw man that nobody consequential believed in anyway. The majority of people who are branded or labeled as, quote, flat earthers really aren't. Like, it's a misnomer. Just replace flat earther with a media skeptic, so jaded that even something as monumental as that could be faked in their minds. Just skeptics. Like, at this point, what couldn't be faked? And it's an important question. Is it fakeable? Could you fake cosmography itself? Like Truman thought the Truman Show was the whole world. Could you convince a population that the region where they live is all there is? There's an excellent movie on this called The Village, about a commune, where the people in it think that there's nothing outside of it because of what they've been told. Or Room. Room has the same premise. A child born in a shed told that there's nothing outside. So this is a theme worth exploring as it pertains to closed informational systems, worldview, far bigger than geography. But I think it's fallacious to promote a model first. Even if you reject the model as presented, it doesn't mean that you have to have a competing one. Joe Dub says, see my stuff, it's concave. So my only issue with concave Earth is that you're replacing outer space with outer dirt. Because what's outside of the hollow Earth, which isn't like Earth as a sphere that's been hollowed out, but it's that we're experiencing something that's actually inverted, that we are on the inside of a sphere. So if we're on the inside of a sphere, or inside of the thing that we call Earth, then what's beneath our feet? Endless dirt? So again, I think you just replaced space with dirt. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What I'm positing is that if it's not a ball, then what's beneath it? You know, I would say, well, you'd have to not start with the premise that space is beneath us. Because if there's no curve, then Earth wouldn't necessarily have to be a discrete object. It's not even a model. That's why I'm not even choosing one. Like, I'm shape agnostic. Shape is the least of my concerns. But until you can prove evidence of a curve, then you can't begin with the presumption that this curve eventually reaches itself and you're on an object that is separate from space, therefore space is beneath it. So I'm saying, if anything, space would be up and down is dirt. And the hollow Earth thing is suggesting that it's endless dirt and we're in a pocket of air, basically, which is scarier than what I'm positing. I'm saying we live in Minecraft. And maybe it gets as big as, one of my points here, and this is why I think models aren't relevant to my perspective. I don't think that we are merely evolved apes trying to figure things out, and that we're eventually going to explore the universe and find other planets. Like, I'm kind of thinking that this whole place might be human-centric. And I'm not religious, but I think this for a few reasons. So I think that we are beings that exist at multiple levels, more or less. And the meat suit is the bottom, but that we also coexist and simultaneously exist in a more non-corporeal form. And that aspect of us may even exist in the future, in the place before the now, before things even exist. So, like, again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a physicist, but in my opinion, I don't think the universe exists until we experience it. So where does that leave me as far as shape? Again, it doesn't matter. Now, if I was convinced that we were soulless, evolved apes with big egos, then yeah, I'd be all about it. Like, yeah, obviously it's a ball. All right, let's continue. Oh, Breck says humans are the only species that understand laws and logic. Is that true? Because there's a dog I can point to who knows when I'm about to leave. And if the back door is even slightly ajar, he'll go outside and decide to sit in the sun, knowing that I can't leave till I get him inside. So I get stalled all the time. He's like, checkmate. It's like, okay, now I have to go out there, pick him up, then close the door, and then leave. And he only does it when he knows I'm about to leave. So he's thinking a few steps ahead. So how is a dog outthinking me if he doesn't understand logic? Felix says, my dog is smarter than college graduates. Yeah, I believe it. Well, let's move on. Joe Dub says, we have the 1897 rectilinear experiment. Yeah, I've heard of that. But my problem is this. My problem is that you may believe that you're in a hollow earth. Someone else may say that they're in a video game. Somebody else thinks that maybe we are, in a domed, enclosed model like the Hebrew teaching, say, or something. We have all these different things, but you can't test it. You can't verify it. Like, what would prove that we're in a hollow earth? Would you have to just dig more than the diameter of the Earth, and then find that you don't find space and you don't pop out in China? Like, how do you prove it? I've heard some people make some arguments, but I just think that trying to convince people you have the right model is the wrong way to go. For the first thing you need to do is get more information. Like, if you want to get the attention of the people who are still trying to figure out what this place is, the people who haven't just settled for what NASA told them, my starting point would be go to the North Pole. Go to the North Pole and see what John D. and Gerardus McCarter were talking about. Go around that magnetic mountain for us. That would be my starting point. You have to build interest in the idea of proving or disproving. Space isn't going to do it. Like, they can send Jaren to space next on Blue Origin, but it's not going to convince any of us. And again, the standard of evidence is simple. Just take out your iPhone and record space, but they won't. We're not going to get, and no believer in space travel can refute this and what it means. They're not going to show you a full unedited cut of the flight to space from inside of the craft because they can't. They don't have it because it doesn't exist, because it's all jump cuts. That's just a fact. So Joe Dubs is a hollow earther. So one problem I have with hollow earth, or one main issue with it again, is that it doesn't answer any questions for me. So if we're a hollow earth, then the solar system is all inside of the ball, right? But what's beneath your feet? Are we inside of a big ball? Like, maybe Earth is a ball, but we're on the inside of it, and it's going around a sun, but it has its own internal sun. I've heard that before. And I think, didn't Admiral Byrd or somebody have something to say about hollow Earth? Regardless, I'm not really in favor of any models. It's really easy to just comfortably adhere to one and never have to test its parameters, its edges. Like, I find it really disheartening that Mark Sargent never bothered to go take a chunk of dome glass. More than anyone, he popularized the dome. You think he'd have a chunk of dome glass on his desk, like the astronauts with their moon rocks. But no, none of the dome believers would go out there to get a chunk of it. And I think there's been more than enough time. I'm not really in any kind of position of having to produce anything like that because I'm not positing a model. I'm rejecting one. I don't consider the globe a complete model until I figure out what's going on with outer space. If what they're showing us from outer space is crappy fake CGI, then what are they hiding? Even if it is a ball, are they hiding Atlantis? I mean, that's a significant thing there. Could the true power elite be quarantined in Atlantis and perhaps even have us in a place of, like in the movie The Village, in a place of relative ignorance to disempower us? Like, we might be in a dark age compared to where they are. And they keep us under a spell with this programming that has us think that we've explored everything. There's nothing else to see. So that's why I say shape doesn't matter. The conspiracy exists. They're hiding something. Our worldview has been distorted. Are they hiding more land? Or is there something else? Till says, have you looked into the soul trap theory that we're consciousness stuck in a reincarnation cycle? Most are saying stay away from the light and you won't reincarnate here. I think that's it. I think there's something to that. Like, I take this very Manichaean view. I do think it's dark versus light, good versus evil. Like, I do. That's why I say this place is human centric. If I didn't believe in absolute evil, then I would likely not at all think about reincarnation or a bigger purpose. But I think that evil is a real thing, and I do think there's some type of a perpetual, I would say, contention here that many of us, I believe, are indeed visitors in the sense that we are projections or we are descended light, that we are not matter. We did not arise from matter, even though we animate it and exist within it and through it. It's how we experience time. It's how we are incarnated beings, but I think that this place in which we are incarnated is also inhabited by many who are of this world, products of matter, who do not emanate or derive from a higher source. And I think their job is to get the other side to forget their origins. In other words, to get you to lose your soul. So I think that there is a war on souls. I don't know if it's like NPCs or something else, but I think there is a fundamental dark versus light. And I think the mass media deceptions are a part of this bigger spiritual war, but it's the earthly, mundane reflection of it. And I think it all ties into this idea of, like, God, let there be light, the chaos, the darkness. I think it's about, when I say this place is built for us and that it's coming into existence as we experience it. Yeah, I think we are the light moving through it. We are the perceivers slash experiencers, and on some level, our perception experience of it is what creates it. But again, I think there are some who are, I think there's this attempt to get you to forget your origins and stay here indefinitely. I mean, I could be wrong, but I do think it has all the elements of a trap or some kind of game, like a carnival, a rigged game, I'm sure, but I'm not necessarily against it. Like, I don't think we're here to lose. And by lose, I mean lose yourself to the matrix, to its values, to the perspective that you're just an egotistical ape and nothing means anything. Like, I think there may be an objective here to get you to forget something. And what happens if you forget? Do you lose forever? Well, I think back to the image of Anubis guiding the dead into the underworld, weighing the souls, the heart and the feather. And if the heart outweighs the feather, it gets thrown into oblivion, devoured by that alligator thing. So I think that's what happens here. I think if you don't snap out of the worldview they've given you and all of its confines and its dramatic reduction of the entirety of your being, yeah, I think you might be losing yourself in the mix, and you get thrown into the celestial dustbin or something. I could be wrong. I mean, like I said, I'm not a scientist, and when I say that I don't believe the universe exists, it's like that to me is like a bigger statement than saying the earth is flat. Like I that's why I'm saying geography doesn't matter to me, because I don't think this place works the way they say. But that's a completely different subject. Although I like that idea, I've heard this idea of the soul trap, because like, is this place against you? Like, is it something to escape? Is it something to be avoided? Like, did I do something wrong to be put here? Because it is kind of a gamble if you think about it. Like, you're here for a time as an eternal being where you might lose yourself. It's like playing a video game and confusing yourself with a character. And then when the game ends, not remembering that you were the player. So it could be like that. And I look at like the game consoles, they're all black cubes, which is like the Saturnian symbol for the material world. And in a way, you could look at the monolith, the matrix, the propaganda matrix, the entertainment, the bread and circuses of it all, as a form of soul entrapment, focusing your attention on things that are irrelevant and don't matter, so you forget that you're more than just this number that's target marketed to. Diana says, I believe there's a war for souls. The earth is built for us, no matter what shape. I'm not religious, but we are spiritual beings in the fourth dimension, breathing in the third. Yeah, I think I concur with that. When I say there's like a war here, I think it's like obviously the psi war, mind war, war and perception. But if the worldview you're given excludes information that could tell you about the bigger picture, then yeah, you'd have to say it's a war on what you would consider to be transcendental or spiritual awareness. So obviously, calling it a spiritual war is not a hyperbole. It's an accurate way of describing it. And I think this even pertains to the mainstream perspective on precognition, telepathy, synchronicity, any of these things that are, like, for example, even noticing patterns in propaganda is pathologized. Oh, this person's too aware. He's making these connections that aren't there because I can't see them. So therefore, this person is a malfunctioning, broken robot. This is a apophenia. It's like, no, I think the real malfunction is not seeing the patterns, or worse, seeing them and then denying your own perceptions because of what the TV says and peer pressure. So that's a war on perception right there. You can't even have your own perceptions because they differ from what you're broadcasted, what they broadcast to you. Mazel says, if you tell yourself it's a trap, it's a trap. I kind of disagree because I don't believe that we are in that much, like, I don't think we have that much control. You know, I talk about things sometimes bluntly. I'm like, yeah, this situation is unsalvageable and it's a drag. And some people say, well, if you talk about it like that, you're only manifesting it like that. Oh, so it's my fault, right? So all the bad things are my fault because of the way I describe them. But I generally have a very positive attitude and I make my plans about things very clear. And talking about things in a positive light doesn't make them happen any faster. Like, I think it's kind of wishful thinking. And wishful thinking doesn't really happen. And law of attraction, reality, probability, manipulation, there may be something to that. But if it was so simple as stating your intentions would manifest things, then everybody would be a genie. There's got to be something more to it. But I understand the limitations of framing things. Like, so what Mazel said, if you tell yourself it's a trap, you create a trap. That's true in the sense that you live in the model that you build for yourself. So I do think it's true that if you operate on the premise that this is a trap best worth escaping, you could end up reinforcing that. But I am open to this question here. How can this be just a ride if evil exists? So if there's a contest between light and dark and soul beings and soulless beings, and if evil exists in an objective and absolute way, then we can't say it's merely a ride. It's like, okay, we're on a ride on a roller coaster, but every other seat is inhabited by a psychopath. So no, I can't say it's not a trap. I mean, I don't know what it is. And even if you go with the dominant paradigm, Mother Nature is pretty nasty and has been pretty bad to us. And the fact that we exist at all is just a happy coincidence and luck because we're latecomers to the scene from an evolutionary perspective. And this place will exist long after we've wiped ourselves out. So even the mainstream view is very dismal. So saying that this place is a trap for souls isn't that much worse than saying that we live in a dying universe as an evolved species that has a grandiose sense of their own importance in the cosmic scheme of things. And which I do. Like I say, I do believe that this place is built for us. I think it's human-centric. Do dogs think this is dog-centric? Cats, too? I was like, is that just ethnocentrism, or am I just having some kind of anthropocentric delusion that everything matters because it's us? No, the reason I think so is because of synchronicity and the seeming meaningfulness of the events that we experience. So we're here, I think, for something beyond just our physical continuity. It's not just about eating and reproducing and sleeping and working. There's something else here. Okay, continuing. Mazel says, there are people who think you have to eject your spirit at a certain degree or you're trapped. It's wild. Oh, that's right. You have to go over the moon or dodge Saturn. I've seen this thing, the Saturn moon sun projection. I think the model is the sun projects life onto the earth. The Saturn harvests it. No, the moon. The moon is the recycler. I'm not quite sure, but I've been told avoid going to the light. But I'm not convinced I want to leave. That's the thing. Like if I was offered immortality through Neuralink and I could live in a sim, I'm probably going to say yes. It's better than just going completely dark. There was this TV show on Amazon called Upload about this company that sold a digital realm for the recently departed to have their consciousness uploaded into this cloud where you wouldn't go to heaven, you wouldn't go anywhere else, you would stay there as long as your family would pay the monthly bill. And they could pay for things like upgrades for your lifestyle up there, and they could interact with you through these bodysuits and these VR lenses, so they could go up and visit their dead loved ones. So it's kind of like this digital purgatory. All right, let's see here. Eugenie says, me and my girlfriend laughed when we watched that show. Pretty funny and dystopian. Yeah, it actually was pretty funny. It's a satire, but it's this idea, if you had the choice, and a lot of people are like, yeah, this place is bad, I want to leave. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I don't hate this place. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not really I'm anti-incarnation. I don't hate the flesh. I don't think human beings are bad. But I do think that this place isn't exactly as advertised. And I'm not troubled by my lack of answers. The fact that the religions don't have any answers. I think the religions may have some clues, actually. There are some I think, allegorical explanations. I can see why people believe in reincarnation, for example. I've been watching this show called Wheel of Time based on a book series, and it deals with this idea of reincarnation and synchronicity. I'm not necessarily recommending it. I read the books before, and it does have these elements of like when I said it's not created to experience it. It has this idea of this place being woven into existence, which is something that appears in various mythologies, that the creator is like weaving this place. In the Matrix, it's more of a computer analogy, but I like the idea that it's being created as it goes. And I think that's more in line with the idea of what it really is, rather than a static place that will continue to exist as the perceivers leave. Like, I just don't think it works that way. Right, moving on. Joe Dub says we're food for the moon. I've heard that too. I've heard this idea that one of the purposes to all of the war, the noise, the chaos, is to squeeze as much life force out of us because they're feeding off of it. People talk about Loosh and archons and this notion that the rulers of this place actually power it through us. And see, this opens the conversation to this place is a collective manifestation of the experiencers who are essentially being used as matrix batteries. Are we matrix batteries? And I think that's an interesting conversation as well, but I try to veer away from trying to formulate a complete model without evidence, because the people who've settled on this being a simulation have adopted a metaphysical model that is false. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's a false metaphysical model, which isn't useful right now. And you have a model, usually unconsciously, your version of things that you've internalized. And what I'm proffering here isn't a metaphysical model, but one for the media itself, what it is and how do you process it. And the model that I presented is that we're given a world stage, a selective interpretation that represents the version of things according to the power monopoly that they want you to have. And the model that I have articulated here is one that recognizes that you have this MSM box that everyone's in, and then you have the expanded version of it, which is recognizing the box and what's outside of it. So here's what the masses believe, and here's what we think is true, which is usually we believe the masses are lied to about this. So we don't always have something to fill in, like what really happened, but we know this didn't happen. It's subtractive. Let's see. Joe Dub says, like, the shape matters. It's concave. Look into it. I'm doing you a solid. Stop watching stupid shows and read all the books. Librarium Esotericum. No, I adamantly make the point here all the time. It's like you have to watch the news. You have to watch the entertainment. You have to be situationally aware to know what's in everyone else's minds and where this thing is going. I think you have to be informed. So there's basically two groups of people. You've got the misinformed, and these are the people who are up to date with all the misinformation. And then you have the informed. The informed know the misinformation, and they know what's misinformation about it. So the informed have an edge. The uninformed who don't pay attention to the misinformation are clueless. They're opting out of having a clue. So then when a big psyop happens, what are you going to do if you're uninformed? It's too late to catch up. You haven't been paying attention. You'll have no resistance against the peer pressure and the compulsions of the mob. But the earth being hollow, I'm not, or concave, I'm not really all that fond of models of cosmologies that don't have any form of testability. I'm interested to know what you think is outside of it. If you're saying the earth is hollow and we're in it and we're all looking up at the same like light sources above, what's beneath our feet? If you could answer that, then I might be interested to entertain your model. Like, what happens? Like, okay, what is 30,000 miles beneath my feet? If we're on a ball, it's outer space. But if we're in a hollow earth, is it dirt? How far down does the dirt go? Are there other hollow pockets? Are we living in a big Swiss cheese universe? And the pockets of air is where people live. Donna Southard says, if it's hollow, we can only drill 7 miles down. Oh, that would explain why we can only drill 7 or 8 miles. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll look at the evidence for the hollow earth, but I'm interested in your speculation. Like, when you look down, what do you imagine is beneath your feet? Like, how far down does the rock go? And if it's infinite, see, this is interesting information. Let's say we find out that the earth is hollow and that the sky, the atmosphere, is actually a bubble and that we're living in a bubble. If that's true, then we have infinite resources beneath our feet. And you could dig an infinite depth into the Swiss cheese universe. Who knows how far? And maybe they've already done so. Maybe they've already Swiss cheesed this place. And Hyperloop is how they get around. And this would also make interplanetary travel feasible. You just have to go through the cheese block to another air pocket. So we're an air pocket universe, in your view, like a sponge, the Spongiverse. It's not absurd, not necessarily. You're just replacing the concept of space with something else. But for those who believe that they have a complete model with the globe Earth, only if you believe what they say about space, but even then, you don't know what's at the edge of your universe. And by the way, the universe is considered to be flat. So nobody has all the answers yet. Ollie Goering says, we live in SpongeBob SquarePants. Yep, hidden in plain sight. They have to tell us. They put it on SpongeBob. They had to tell us. Revelation of the method the whole time. We're in SpongeBob's pants. Thank you for letting us know, Joe Dubs. But they say that the universe is flat, infinite. We don't know what's the edge. In other words, it's an infinite plane. But the difference is they believe the infinite plane is just space. And I'm saying if it is infinite, it's just an infinite land, but I don't know what's beneath it. Like I could be positing that we're standing on infinite rock, infinite dirt, infinitely deep. The main difference between what I'm positing with my agnosticism and the standard spinning ball model is that they don't have up and down. It's all relative. I'm suggesting if it is flat, or if it were flat and infinite, then you'd have a down, because you're not talking about a discrete object orbiting, which means that space is up. But up and down don't exist. That's a conspiracy theory. Jim Firebrand says, what if we're on a giant ball inside of a crater? So it looks flat because we're in a crater, but it also looks like a ball from up because it's a giant. Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, I'm still intrigued by Vibes of Cosmos. I think it's uncanny what he has found. Yeah, there you go. Cope said it. Great point. Hollow Earth is a closed system. This is why I reject models. We don't need closed systems. Right now, it's open until proven closed, infinite until proven otherwise. And if you're saying we're in a hollow Earth, then you're saying that what they show us on the globe is accurate. This is all there is. This is all the land, all the waters. It's just that it's inside out. So you could more accurately describe you as being an inside out earther. And then your solar system's also in the inside, which means that your stars are in the inside. So it becomes very, I would say, daunting. I mean, it's one thing to say the earth is hollow and there's some people inside and there's another sun, which is one traditional view, but it's completely another to say that we're in a hollow earth and all the distances to the stars, the planets, etc., are therefore much closer. But it's not incompatible with the flat earth concept. Skyfish, did you listen to Jaron on THC with Greg Carlwood? No, I'd like to. Hey, let me open up phones. If you want to try calling, but fair warning, your phone number might flash on the screen. So I'm going to try to do something with a different window, and maybe I can make that work. So give me just a moment while I turn this on. Joe Dub says, it's a useless exercise to try to figure out what's outside of everything. I don't think it is. I think if you can't answer that, you don't have a complete model. And I'm saying you don't have one and NASA doesn't have one, because I don't think they've adequately answered or addressed what we call space. So no, if you're pushing a model, you're what we used to call, like this is like, we've already dealt with this. We said, we chose infinite plane society because we thought it's premature to have a model. If you have a model, you just become a proselytizer. It's like a religion. It's like, I've got the truth. Listen to me. It's like, well, prove it. I'm not going to have faith in what you say. So Jim Firebrand, Rem Rec, and Felix, you are all getting a blue wrench. So if you look at your chat comments, I'm just going through there really quick while I'm here. There you go. Felix, Remrek, Jim, Firebrand. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the lodge. Abuse the power responsibly. All right, great. I have a separate computer on, so I'm watching the YouTube feed, and thank you very much for bringing in the 10 wrenches. Diana Southard, we've got 10 new members. Okay, let's move on. Copaesthetic says, I picture Hollow Earth as a kind of ant farm from Earth. Yeah, I've seen several different versions of it. There's concave, there's Hollow Earth, all these competing models, but it's premature. So to me, the real question is open or closed. So like, Joe Dubs, what is your opinion on the news? Like, for example, how many people died in the latest, we'll say, mass shooting? What is your answer? Okay, so I just turned on the phones. So whoever is trying to call in, if you want to call back. Because one of my other points here is that if somebody doesn't know that the news is fake and that history is manipulated and not even believable, because it's not there for your information, it's there specifically for your misinformation, then why would I care about your assessment about the shape and your conviction about knowing the right model? So to me, your worldview is a far more irrelevant topic than anything else. Okay, so let me go ahead and add the phones to the stage. Did it? Okay, you can call in. All right, continuing here. Jim Firebrand says, there's a book by F. Amadeo Giannini about this. It's hard to read. Anyone heard of it? What you can do is you could take the text and put it through maybe Notebook LM and ask for a synopsis. I've been seeing some interesting ways of taking complex information and simplifying it for the purposes of understanding it, like creating instant cliff notes. I want to go through some of John Dee's work and see if I can discern anything by parsing through it with Notebook LM. Felix says the news is fake because if you actually have never been in a newsy station, the warp and spin is always present. Yes, and even if everybody at a newsroom is honest and they're not lying, they rest upon an edifice of lies because of the institutionalized lies that they uphold. For example, it is a lie, it is inaccurate to say that what is reported, or rather what is in the history books, is an accurate depiction of what happened. And I'm just talking about the history books covering the 20th century. Or just we'll say the last 50 years of history. If we look at the last 50 years of history as it's reflected in the history books, they're all wrong. And that's because they've all been manipulated by fake news. And we can prove this. So just from that perspective, a news agency full of people who are just truthy and honest, goody two-shoes, guess what? They're liars because they're built upon their entire narrative rests upon an edifice of lies. So where's the honest news? There isn't any. If you're mainstream or alternative, you're liars. That's just how it works. I call it the lie world order. That's going to be in part 3, the 3rd edition of Auto Hoaxology, this lie world order concept. And I'm not being cynical. There is no truth in media. Now, there is truth in media deconstruction. Rather, there's lie deconstruction, but it doesn't mean that we know what's behind the lies. But again, it's more of an agnostic take on things. But no, there is no truth in media. And people are uncomfortable with this. Name anybody in media, I will call them a liar. And I won't feel bad. Laura Loomer is a liar. Kay Perry, liar. Alex Jones, liar. Stu Peters, liar. Anybody on the left or right that adheres to the world stage meta scripted theater is a liar. And it's because they are believers in lies. It's rather simple. Now, are they witting liars, conscious liars? Do they know? Not necessarily. Are they morally culpable? That's a matter of debate. Okay, continuing here. Jim Firebrand says, I've been looking for a while. I was around when Powerland was big. Well, Powerland has found something even better than adrenochrome for life extension. Some kind of silt that he puts on his face and his hair, brushes his teeth with it, and he sells it by the bag. And I remember he tried to talk me out of doing a billboard that said research flat earth. He said, you can't. Flat earth is mine. I created it. And I was like, okay, well, it's too late. Well, now he's literally selling the earth bag by bag by bag. He's bagging it up. He's selling life extension mud. What is it? Power clay. But as far as the flat earth question, I don't know. I stopped listening to him because he was so big on chemtrails. I don't really follow people anyway. You know, we do our own thing here, but I do try to keep up with the various people who have tackled this subject, and a lot of them have backslid. You know, and it's a miracle that somebody finally went to Antarctica. Now, I got a question for you, Jim Firebrand. Do you agree with us that Jaren is a NASA plant? You've been around long enough, you should know. Is he a NASA plant? Bach Precision has been here for 7 months. Lean Dion says mud earther. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's ironic that he's like, I own this flat earth. Well, if you own it, I guess you could sell it. And I've checked out some of his content. His art is always good. I mean, really, if you're into that, you know what you're looking at. It's one of a kind, unique stuff. I'm just not all that concerned with trying to look young and preserve that TikTok, I guess. What is it? You want to be telegenic because you could just use a filter. I mean, I've seen these videos, like these news stories about women in their 80s and 70s and 80s using filters and, you know, getting the money from younger clients. So if I start aging, I'm not going to put mud on my face. I'm just going to use a filter if it bothers me. You know, it'd be kind of funny. I should go the other way. I should put on a filter and add like 20 years. Just anyway, let's move on. I'm trying to test out some new features while we're sitting here. I'm waiting for Jim Firebrand's answer on Jaren. Is he a NASA plant in your opinion, or is he legit? Okay, let's see. Jim Firebrand says John Levy talks about this too. Yeah, John Levy is the mud flood guy. And I don't believe in a literal mud flood, but I do think that psychologically speaking, mentally, we have been hit with a mud flood. In fact, we're in one right now. As we speak, there is a flood of mud. It's this misinformation deluge. And this is going to essentially rewrite history and allow them to control the future. And they're rewriting history as we go. And it's not even so much the rewriting of history, but rather the curating of history, making it up as they go. Yeah, phones are open if you want to call in. Bach says, it's funny how the mud flood Tartaria stuff appeared out of nowhere 10 years ago. You know what's interesting about that is I first heard about it from a Q person who was taking malaria drugs because he said a, quote, boomer killer was coming. So the early Q people believed in the virus and they thought it was a good thing, which is kind of sick. Okay, yeah, phones are open if you want to call in, 505-510-4226. And he said to me, there's going to be a reset, that 5G is some kind of distributed direct energy weapon that's going to zap everywhere and liquefy the ground, and everything's going to sink except for government buildings and the post offices and the churches, that we're going to be mud flooded again. It's going to be a reset. And I said at the time, I was like, I'm not really open to end times-ism. I'm done with people saying the world's about to end. And I kind of put that to the side, and then all of a sudden, we started hearing about the Great Reset, the Great Awakening. So the Tartaria mud flood thing was sold to the Q crowd, to the conspiracy crowd, as this idea that the power elite wipe us out every few hundred years and start over again. And they have some kind of weapon that liquefies the soil, buries everything, and we build back. And the same people are in control, even as we are given a false background. So it's a fascinating concept. I don't think it's absolutely true, but I think that they have essentially accomplished the same thing with information. No need for a literal mud flood. I think it's all just essentially a metaphor. But the flood thing, the evidence for it they propose is kind of interesting. The idea that we live atop a buried, like literally a buried civilization. Like, I don't think that's unthinkable. But it is kind of interesting how the Tartaria concept seemed to attach to this idea a lot of other things as well, like Tesla, free energy. Eventually, they threw in the parasites who did it all, and you can see where it all goes. But it's one of the more interesting lines of conspiracy thought, as far as, how far back can you trust history? Because if you cannot trust the news, then what makes you think you can trust the history, presuming it's patched together by the same interests? Okay, so I think I have the phones on if you want to try again. Yeah, I do read responses to emails, by the way. Respond to any newsletter, just hit reply. Yeah, Joe Dubs, if you want to try calling, I'll put the number in the chat. It's 505-510-4226. And you are the Hollow Earther. Again, I just think that having any model creates a closed system that's premature. I don't want to start with the end first, and then let everything else just kind of reach that same stopping point. Because people do get caught up in their models. They get caught up in their paradigms, and they can't break out of it. The media paradigm is one. If you're in a mainstream mediation state, that's your paradigm. Nothing outside of it makes sense to you. It's all just conspiracy theory. Same with alternative. And people in alt media will consider normies asleep because they can't break out of their initial worldview. And what I'm running up against now is that truthers can't escape their alternative paradigm. Hey, caller, can you hear me okay?
Hey, man, it's Joe Dubs. How you doing?
What's up, Joe Dubs? Let me make sure that the audience can hear you okay. I think we got it without your numbers being revealed. Everybody hear him? Okay, what's up,
I
Joe?
hear you.
Okay, what's up, Joe Dubs?
Yeah, how's it going? Somebody sent me a screenshot of you, like, commenting on something, maybe on Discord, about how Flat Earth is a psyop, or I don't know. It must have been years ago. Maybe I can bring it up here. Hold on.
Well, my position
Let me read it for you.
my position has always been that the flat Earth model is premature, and the people advancing it are taking a fall on behalf of all of the skeptics who've questioned the globe. So no, it's the whole movement coming out is inorganic, not grassroots.
Right. That's kind of what this says. That makes sense, and I agree. It says, I don't know. Maybe I won't mention the names. Know this, and I speak for 4 or 5 people. We are on the side of Rome, the one true apostolic church, now headed by NASA. We know the Earth is enclosed, but we will use the flat Earth awakening to farm the populations back to fiefdom and plantations.
Interesting.
On from there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that whoever runs this place, through their symbolism and iconography, have just merely taken the old system and updated it. Like, I would say that NASA is the most modern iteration of the mystery schools. That's
right.
Pretty safe to say. And the ideal we've been given, the utopia of space communism, is in fact a form of serfdom. And it's just done under a different pretext. So instead of regulating people because of sin, they can regulate us because of carbon footprints. That they've essentially updated the control system. I think that religion and media are the same thing. That media has just supplanted it, and the old system's being phased out. But the religiosity is still there, but the structure is still there too. The priesthood, the mind mediators who keep the sheeple in a controllable paradigm. That has not changed.
Right. I mean, that's what it's all based on, is control, right? And what better way of doing that if they can just convince you that everything is not what you think it is. You know, so
well, they admit this.
Pretty powerful tool to have.
Yeah, you can find, there's this really good article called, and it's in Auto Hoaxology, the book that I have on Amazon now. But in it, there's this statement by this historian, Polybius, talking about how superstition maintains the cohesion of the Roman state, and that because of the way that people are, that in order to control them, it's better to keep them afraid of God. So the fear of God constructs, is sort of a pacifier. So when I look at the nuke or climate change, what are these things but tools of the power elite to control mass behavior? And you can see that it does. From, recycling, compliance, regulation, taxing. Yeah, it's pretty clear that we're all paying for the national defense because we're scared of the obliteration of the nuke. They've given us constructs that have given them the power to shape our worlds and to control us. And I don't think that's any different than storm gods who can flood you if you don't modify your behavior. The monotheistic God construct has been brought back with Gaia. Heaven is space. And it goes on.
Yeah, well, the whole thing, like outside of Earth, you may have a point, but my own theory is, I think like the serpent, the great dragon, is trying to control everything from outside. Like if you look at the NASA logo, you'll see that serpent tongue coming on the outside of it, and I think they're trying to tell you something. It's like the revelation of the method. They have to like reveal some truth to you. So that NASA logo is the celestial sphere, and they're telling you it's a planet, right?
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I do think there's something to that. I mean, look, the serpent, the symbol, the snake, I think there's some significance to the Kabbalistic tree of life, which often has a snake climbing it, ascending from the kingdom to the light. And I think there is something to the symbolism of the rocket launch, going to the higher realm. And there's a reason why you have to go Mach 33 to exit the realm. So I think there is certainly a symbolic subtext to this. So now, as far as the Earth thing goes, so you're suggesting here that we live in a sphere, but we're on the inside of it.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly convinced. I started looking into this a little over a decade ago, and I got out of it because I just thought I never had the time to dedicate it toward it. And in the past year, this is like all I've done, and I just wanted to figure it out. And it's definitely concave for a number of reasons. It's the only way everything can work, but moreover, it's what all the evidence suggests, except for a picture of Earth from space. That's it. That's the only evidence they have. So the way that we've long known that Earth is a spinning space ball is that ships disappear over the bulge of water on the horizon, right? Well, that's not what happens. It's literally not what happens at all. It disappears into the inferior mirage, which is always there. It's a thin strip above the horizon, and it's always there. You can only see it when an object enters it, like the sun or the moon or a boat. And it flips the image top to bottom, which is proof that light is bending upward. And that's what's happening inside of Earth. All the light is bending upward, up and around. So
Interesting.
Explains a lot of phenomena.
Now, as far as like the stars, so are the stars arranged in like a celestial sphere?
Yes, the innermost, they're concentric spheres like Russian nesting dolls. The innermost is the celestial sphere, which houses the stars. And these are fixed stars. That's why we don't notice any parallax. That's why Orion's belt is always the same. Thousands of years later, Orion's belt doesn't change because Earth isn't a planet spinning through the universe. It's the container. The word globe literally traces back to the word gleam and gloam, which mean to embrace or contain. Now, if you look at Atlas, right, he holds up the world. A lot of people get that mixed up because they inverted everything. So Atlas can't hold up the world. He holds up the heavens in the original story. And if you look at him, he's embracing. If you look at old sculptures and paintings, he's not just holding the earth. He's embracing it with his whole body. He's wrapping his arms around it. Atlas means maps. Maps. Earth is the wrapper around the celestial sphere. And there's multiple concentric crystalline spheres, probably. It's what all these ancient texts talk about. Concentric crystalline spheres. So
very interesting.
Now
that's okay. So one of the things I brought up today was John Dee. I brought him the other day too, and he has this model of the world. Like, yes, he was advisor to Mercator, and he lived through the whole, the Copernican revolution. So obviously, he would have gone with that. However, in his private writings, he described the world as a square with these 4 watchtowers, and he said that there were these concentric spheres that he called ethers that you ascend upon. So you have this like map, his cosmological map that has a ball in the middle and then spheres surrounding it, multiple layers. So I mean, it's kind of interesting. I'll have to bring it up. What I'd like to see is some kind of model, like a computer model of how
we have it. It's on my website.
Oh, what's your website?
joedubs.com /cellular. It's a Blender model. There's 4 iterations of it. We actually have flat Earth models inside of it just for the flat Earth people.
Okay, okay. What's your take on the final experiment?
It happened. I mean, that's what happens down there. In the north, the sun goes in circles in the opposite direction. Everything about Earth suggests sphericity. Everything. It's not just one little thing here and there. It has to be spherical for all the reasons. But the main citation where they give back in the day is boats disappearing over over the water. Well, that makes sense. Sure, you can model it all out over hundreds of years once you have like gravity figured out with Newton, and it's an ad hoc. Heliocentrism is an ad hoc construction of the universe, right? They just have to keep adding stuff. Oh, the sun can't be that. It's not 3 million miles. Now it's 91 million. Now it's 93 million miles away. There's no parallax. Well, I have to fix that with this in the math. It's all mathematical. It's not. It doesn't cling to reality. It's all math.
Yeah, it does seem like it's a work in progress. I don't consider it to be, as I said earlier, a complete model, because I think what we've been given is misleading. What we've been shown, the map is not the territory, and I'm like, really interested to know what is the real map. What are they hiding and why? And so I haven't excluded the idea 100% that it's a ball, as they say, but if that is what they say, it's certainly not the one that they showed us. It's not the one we see from the ISS. Hey, so I found your site, joedubs.com. That's 1B. Joe Dubs, Natural Philosophy and Esoteric Geometry. Okay. I will look through this concave Earth. Now, I met a concave Earther. I know one. Do you know Brother Ernest?
Yeah. I know Ernie. Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, actually, I have some keychains and stuff that he made for me. I need to get in touch with him because he said he'll start printing my stickers. But yeah, he's a concaver who debated quite a bit, and I think his best evidence he cited was the Concorde or something. He said they retired the Concorde because it would have given away the convexity or concavity.
Yeah, well, the way that the SR-71, the Conqueror, is that the no, that's a different one. Yeah. Anyway, they have like a positive pitch angle. They're always going up, but that's how aviation works. To be honest, I haven't delved too far into the whole, airplane and Challenger thing, but it's interesting. I mean, it makes sense in our model. It makes more sense in the concave model, to put it that way.
Right. Well, I'm still at this point, I'm not really into the models so much as the mental model first. And I don't want to accept a model that's not accurate. And so I'm not going to take one on faith just in case.
Exactly.
And I want my mental model to be harmonious with what I'm experiencing. And I would argue that if you go with the dominant paradigm that hasn't been tested and you've taken it on faith, I think you're entering into a state of cognitive dissonance on a basic level because you're not experiencing something compatible with what you're told that it is. And my lived experience isn't so much defined by a concept of flatness, but rather a concept of a seeming interaction between perceiver and perceived, more than just the physical interactions. So I think the meaning of it, the synchronicities, I think these things are more telling about the model than anything.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's the psychology behind this that really trips us up. We don't realize that we really are under a deep spell. We think that we realize all the spells that we're on, that the mass media are talking about, but this one is so deep, so hard to literally wrap your mind around. The evidence is there. It's just really hard to accept because you like, how could that many people be wrong? Or how could this information been occulted for thousands of years? Right? It's very hard, but I've been at this 10 years. I've always been interested in sacred geometry. Geometry is measuring Earth, right? This is all that I've been interested in the past like 15 years is just looking into geometry. And, it took me a long time to finally have that. It's like a switch flips in your brain, and now it's really, really obvious because I kind of understand a lot of these things.
Are you familiar with the idea of the crater Earth and crater Earthers?
I just came across a video series about that. I haven't looked into it too much now.
Crater Earth is specifically this individual who suggests that we are okay. So we're talking about the commander. So this crater Earth idea is that the Earth is what we experience as what we're told as a globe is actually just the bottom of a crater, like a crater, not from an impact from like a space rock, but rather like a volcano that bubbled up and then it dried out and we're like what remains. And that over this crater is some kind of a membrane, but that beyond this crater, there are other craters that are also Earth-like realms. I mean, it's kind of elaborate. It asks a lot of somebody to believe it, but he suggests that the space program is a cover. They're not really going to space, but they're going to other craters. So it's kind of this idea that some have posited that the Earth that we live on is just like an island, more or less, on a bigger plane of puddles.
Yeah, I mean, I like exploring new theories like that. It sounds like a lot of the Russian theocentrists. And so, I prefer the term theocentrist. I don't like the term concaver. I prefer it's concave. It sounds bad, but whatever. They have this idea that we're in this world like a geocosm, and there could be more worlds outside of it. So Earth, our Earth system, our world is a berry on a bush, and there could be possibly other ones out there.
Well, what do you think about the Swiss cheese concept or the sponge? Like it's just a big mass and then the air pockets. I mean, I don't know. It's just conjecture, but
that could be true. Yeah.
I mean, how much
Very well.
how different is that than saying that we're in an infinite universe with many galaxies and many Earth-like situations? It's no different. The only difference between the mainstream view and what we're positing is they add a bunch of space and distance that may not be there.
Right. Well, I just been trying to figure out what we can, our system and what we're in, and it can only work two ways. It can never be flat for a bunch of different reasons. And we have the convex model, and that works. It's a working model. It predicts stuff, right? But there's a process in geometry just called inversion, where you plot the points outside of a sphere, inside of a sphere, and all the physics and geometry and math works perfectly. There's been books written about this stuff. There's only one thing you have to change, and that's light, the way that light travels. It doesn't travel in a straight line. Light travels towards the more dense medium, according to Snell's law. So cold air is more optically dense than warmer air. And that's what causes the inferior mirage, actually. When you're looking at the boat in the distance, the air directly over top of the ocean is warmer than the air above it because of heat retention from the sun. It's always like that. You always see that.
Okay, then something else that's brought up here really quick. So if the Earth is we're on the inside of a sphere and the sun is above us then, and it's moving, then it has a finite range. So then light years could not possibly exist, correct?
Right. All the distances are contracted. So the center of heaven and earth is equivalent to the border of our ever-expanding universe. You could think of it like that. So the distances are all distorted, of course. The sizes of the bodies, the sun, the moon, not nearly as big as they claim, and not nearly as far away. I don't know if we can figure out exactly how far the sun and the moon are, but I tend to think that the moon is not that far away, like 1,000 miles, probably.
So then my other question would be, do you agree with what I'm saying about the space program being entirely science fiction?
Yeah. They know what's going on. The upper class knows this stuff, right? My friend, he was a Rosicrucian. He mailed me this lecture series that goes over exactly what I'm talking about. It's called Arcane Cosmology. It's on my Librarium Esotericum website under Heaven and Earth section. Then you get more confirmation from other places. Google the Vanderbilt estate, the Marble House in Newport, Rhode Island. There's a virtual tour. Walk in, go to the first room on the right, look to the left. What will you find? You'll find you'll find the cosmology I'm describing here, because they knew about this stuff. They wrote about it. It's all hush hush. This is the mystery school stuff. This is the mystery. Plato talked about it. He wrote about it in Phaedo, in Timaeus. I have citations for all this stuff.
Well, I will look through, and I'm going to share your link below, so if people want to look into it and arrive at their own conclusions,
for sure. I got a good term, but
so thank you for calling. Hey, just to confirm, N.A. Literalist says this guy might be Jaren with a voice changer. Is that possible?
I know Jaren. I don't know. He doesn't seem open to this, theory. He just wants to go back to the globe, I guess, which is fine. Whatever.
I thought he would. I actually thought. I was like, watch him go concave before going full ball. But anyway, there's not a lot known about concave because very few people talk about it. So thanks for calling.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And
good talking to you.
Yeah, joedubs.com. Thank you. Bye. Okay, so the phones work. I just have to put it on a separate window. Mike D says, so much for uncensorship. Right there on the screen where we can all read it. It's been censored, I guess. Concave man. That's what we used to say. The concavers. The concavers, though, have, I think, the same issue that the globers have, which is incomplete model for lack of exploration. Someone needs to see what's in outer dirt. What's up, caller?
Hey Tim, it's Nick Finger.
Oh, Nick Finger. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, not much. I watched your AI course this morning and spent some time messing around with that. Came up with a pretty cool image of I call it periwinkle. It's with the Blue Origin capsule on top of the pyramid as the capstone, with Kate Perry's eyes above it, one of them shut.
Oh, where can I see
but,
this? Where can I see this artwork that you've created?
I emailed it to you, I guess to your Substack,
Okay.
and then later when I was going into work, I did one in a triptych in the style of Hieronymus Bosch, where the first one is these kind of alchemical guys coming up with the whole idea of faking space travel, and the second, the middle panel, is all the masses of people worshiping these rockets in a television. And then on the third one, it's like a behind the scenes, like, so you see the magic trick, and they've got all the planets on strings, and there's a guy doing a fake moon landing. It came out pretty good.
Okay, I'm actually looking right now on my
I'll
Substack.
send you that one too.
Okay, I'm gonna be able to get this in my direct messages. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can pull this up. And yeah, I do get messages that way, and I'll be sure to share them. So the course, for those who don't know, you can find it at my Ko-Fi. There's a link to it. I think I even put it on the website here. You know, I'm just trying to get more people to use the same tools I am, see if you find them useful. I mean, I use one, Notebook LM. You just copy and paste a YouTube link, and it'll give you a synopsis and essentially a transcript. But yeah, I'll put what you sent me, because I can't go to it now for some reason, but I'll put what you sent me into the newsletter for the archives.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, and then I had ChatGPT. It asked me if I wanted an analysis of the symbolism that was used in the image. Because at first I was like, I told it to that I wanted the first panel to be like Jack Parsons and Walt Disney and L. Ron Hubbard and Werner von Braun, like doing black magic, creating NASA, and it complimented me on my creativity for the idea, but it said that couldn't put specific people in it, and it made this other suggestion, and I was like, yeah, go with that, and it came out pretty cool. And then he's like, do you want an analysis of all the symbolism? I said, well, give it to me as if you were just walking into a museum the first time and you've never seen this before, and it wrote up this whole long analysis of it. And I was thinking of I'm gonna rewatch your tutorial and see some of the other AI things to go to, and I was thinking of plugging that in as a prompt, the whole analysis that it did of this painting that it made, and seeing if I can rework it a different way.
Yeah, exactly. So for people, you take an image that you create, and then you tell Grok, describe this image to me, and it'll use many more adjectives than you use to create it. And then you take that and you reprocess it, and then you get a far more nuanced version of it. There's this one program called Ideogram that automatically does this. It embellishes your prompt and then creates a more elaborate image based on it. But yeah, it's an interesting way to loop these things around. And yeah, and it can do some pretty decent symbol analysis. You just have to know how to talk to these things, and it just takes a little bit of practice. But I find it to be very useful. ChatGPT graphic art has been improving daily. I've been using those for the PSYOP cards, if you've seen those.
Yeah, those are looking pretty good. And like I had tried some, like at first I just did a Google search for AI image generator, and I tried a few different ones, but the ChatGPT one was the one that came up with the best looking thing. That, I mean, it was like, it took me 3 or 4 tries to tweak it, but eventually I got the pretty much the exact image that I was imagining.
That's
So
remarkable.
that was
It really is, because I've had the idea for trading cards for a couple of years, but I was already working on some. I have some that are rudimentary that I drew myself by copying and pasting bits of Musk, bits of this tarot card, and it was going to be like these kind of collages, but it just wasn't feasible to take my time to produce them all instead of this. And now, amazingly, I'm able to churn these things out just within minutes and get them to the marketplace. So it's going to happen. I'm going to be doing trading cards on all these world stage characters, do detailed breakdowns. But yeah, so AI has been really an accelerant on this whole thing.
How do you get it to do specific people? Like on your newest one that has got all the 6 people, the women on the rocket flight. But when I was asking it to do specific people, it was like, we don't want to open up for ourselves to defamation lawsuits and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So did you have to?
You can't. So you couldn't say Kate Perry, but you could say, "Give me a pop star in a jumpsuit." You can't say Trump, but you could say, "Give me a brash billionaire, I guess real estate mogul," and it'll take these prompts and just take and drawing against what the consensus thinks, and it'll give you that person. You just have to describe it without saying it directly. It's all about indirectness.
Yeah. And so like when I was trying to do, like, at first, so I told it that I wanted, in the style of the $1 bill, a pyramid that was missing a capstone, and in place of the capstone, the Blue Origins landing capsule, and with 2 female eyes, large female eyes overseeing the whole thing, one of them closed. And at first I asked it to put "In Perry We Trust," but it wouldn't do that. And so then I decided, well, it's Kate Perry winking, so I'll call it Periwinkle.
Oh, that's
And so
okay.
I just put that word in there, and it came out pretty good.
Well, one other thing too, like I wanted one for the Boston bombing, so I can't say have a bunch of bleeding amputee runners on the ground with a crock pot that's smoking. But what I could say is have a lot of marathon runners, some of them amputees, stretching on the ground with sweating faces. So now it looks like they're crying. But then you add on to it something else like the crock pot smoking, FBI agents taking pictures. As long as you don't cross the line, like you could get away with maybe ketchup, but not blood. But if you wanted to put on there Boston Hoaxathon, it might stop you. So sometimes you have to add some elements separately. So separately, you could add screaming panicked onlookers and the title, big psyop hoax or something, but you'll have to add those elements separate. So sometimes I'll combine 2 if I can't coax it to creating it in one single prompting.
Well, cool, man. Well, you're doing great work.
Yeah, well, thank you for the call, and Nick Finger, call back anytime, and I will find the art that you sent me, and I'll post it. Thanks again.
All right. Have a good one.
Appreciate the review on my course. So again, if you go to the Ko-Fi site, I recorded a course just showing the different AI apps that I'm using right now for creative writing, nonfiction writing. I'll do another one for AI agents so you can see, how am I turning these bots onto Twitter and Blue Sky, or the auto-generating press releases, or the Twitter bots that scrape content from targeted accounts. Like I have these different ones that I've set up, and I can show you where I'm building these things. Because when I was off for a little while, I was thinking I can learn how to code. And I spent a few days on Python tutorials, and it's interesting and it's fun, and I'm learning this stuff, but it's going to take a lot of time. So I did find there are some websites, a lot of different places you can go, where you can build stuff without needing to know what's beneath the hood. You just need to know what functions you want, and the code gets done, behind the scenes, and you can read it and you can kind of get an idea, but you can get started. Like I could walk you through the creation. If you want a bot that you don't have to pay for, we're talking free. Of course, there's rate limits. There's only a certain number of times it'll be used before you have to wait for the next month, unless you want to buy premium. But I could do a video tutorial on how to put a bot on your YouTube channel or your Twitter channel. And these bots don't have to be spammy. It can be something like, if somebody tweets with this particular hashtag, I want an auto respond with this, or something like that. But it might be worth doing. And if everybody gets into bots, or rather AI agents, it could magnify what we do here, especially if we're trying to aggregate information about hoaxes and fake news events, predictive programming, and come to the right conclusions because we have the most pieces to the puzzle. Oh, Mike D. Yeah, I saw Mike D in the chat. I thought you said you were censored, and so I tried to give you a wrench, but you already had one. So I took it away inadvertently, but you have it back again. You have a new one, in fact. So you have a brand new titanium wrench, which means that you can't be censored. I just thought maybe you had been, somebody was banning you, because sometimes people will misuse the power and they'll ban people for some reason. And I can't always be there to protect you. So I trust you to defend yourself. Okay, so we've been talking about Hollow Earth, AI, Kate Perry. That whole mission with Bezos and Perry and Gail King and Lauren Sanchez did not help the space program at all. It just highlighted the disbelief and the mockery, the fact that nobody believes it. Like, this is a problem for the space agencies, that they thought they could have Kate Perry go up there and say, take that, flat earthers. They thought Kate Perry would be able to shut down the conspiracy theorists. But no, look what happened. It backfired royally. And how are they going to fix that? And it doesn't help that we're just, I'm not even making it a point to debunk it other than the usual clues, but then people are sharing other stuff. And like, oh, look, there's a dummy in there. Like the door opening. People are going frame by frame. I didn't even have time to go through it in that level of nuance, but no, it's being torn apart and people are laughing at it. And that's the last thing they want. Like if they start laughing at it, if they're laughing, they've already lost. They've lost the propaganda war. It's being ridiculed. Ridicule is a weapon in mind war. It really is. And the last thing they want is people laughing at their art project, their science fiction, their pageantry. All right, let's see who else is in the chat. Eric Bliss, Unmitigated Mind, Mr. Tamiage. By the way, if you comment, you will get a blue wrench. So go ahead and say something if you haven't. And you'll be modded on the main channel. The 24-hour stream is going to turn back on. It's just recent replays of we've been here for about 3 hours here tonight. I generally plan for about 2. But again, we're catching up. We missed almost 10 full days. Unmitigated Mind says, I'm glad they put women into space. Well, they're not the first. They're always hyping it up. And they've been trying to suggest that NASA is sexist, that they didn't have spacesuits the right size for the female astronauts before. And they are making this thing about feminism, essentially. That was the intent. And now they're playing victim. So now they didn't just get to go on a very expensive ride and become part of a privileged small group of people who call themselves astronauts. No, now they're victims because we are calling it a ride. And by calling it a ride, we're not giving it due deference for the monumental achievement it was for all womankind. So now we're misogynistic for not properly respecting their ride in what is objectively a phallic symbol. Okay, here is Chief Crow. The edge is in your mind. Thanks for joining. We'll
your